So I don't know. You can look it over.
Yeah,
I
I'd
mean,
like to see it.
the dreams that were in the book, I just think it's called Alchemy by Jung. Those were all Wolfgang Pauli's too, and I think there's 300 of them in that.
Good grief.
But it's a little more. This is a little more seminarish. How's Roy doing?
Yeah, I'm good.
Oh, great! Yeah, that's fabulous. Charles, how about you? You must have been busy. Hoping you have a dream.
There was on Monday there was like a little cookout when I attended.
Well, you've been going to a lot of social events lately. That's kind of cool.
I mean, more than I would have back at home, but yeah, I mean, I'll tell you what. Everyone's main complaint is that there's not a lot of stuff to do other than work. And then, well, last night everyone went and swam at the lake, but my ride ditched me because they had 2 spots open and 2 girls needed a ride, so they didn't bother to come get me.
What? That's a little nutso. Yeah. Anyway, well, does anybody have a dream? I've got these books. I'm gonna put them in, and I thought what we do is just have a plurality. You know, have a maybe 5-10 books, and just see who. What the plurality is on it. Whoever wants to, whoever gets the most votes, even if they don't get a majority, we can do it. So anyway, does anybody have a dream? I
have one.
Okay, great. That's great. That first book is Dreams of the Individuation Process. The second one is that book that Shu mentioned about Inanna, and it's got all the pictures in it, and it's the original translation from the cuneiform by that somebody, I forget his name. But anyway, I'll get some more out too. Well, go ahead, Charles, if that's okay. Roy or Gary, do you have dreams or not?
A little short one I have.
Okay, all right. Well, let's start out with Charles, and
okay.
Go ahead, Charles.
This was on the 14th. I haven't had a dream since the 14th, actually.
Oh my God, that's unbelievable.
So, I couldn't remember all of it, but this is what I did remember. So I had a cage with a hamster in it, but he was a new hamster, and the previous one, there might have been more than one, I don't know, but the previous one died. The cage was a total mess and had been taken apart, and at some point the new hamster found the corpse of the old hamster, or actually it's written that it was nibbling on them. So I guess there were multiple dead hamsters, and the new one that was still alive was nibbling on the corpses of the old hamsters. And in the corner of the cage was a bunch of junk and old debris that had been piled up. And there was a old dead snake buried in the pile of debris. And spiders were making webs in the cage. And that's that.
Okay, dead snake in the corner, and then spiders had filled it with cobwebs. Okay, and we're still making cobwebs. Could you see them making cobwebs, or were just cobwebs?
Yeah, there were spiders actively living in there and making webs.
Making webs with cobs. Well, just let's review the dream that you had before, because it considered spiders and snakes. I mean, the children are, do you know what day this dream was? About the children and the spiders and snakes? Well, anyway, there's children in a endless plain of spiders and snakes, and they can't go forward, and there's nowhere to go anyway. So the fact that they just absolutely, there's no movement whatsoever in that field of what really I'm saying is the devouring mother, the spiders and snakes. You know, okay, there's the growing thing. There is no move. There can be no movement because of the great danger to the growing thing. And so the growing thing just goes into some kind of a suspended animation. Now, at that point, the life force, which is the great mother, by the way, lifts this growing thing and takes it to a place of safety, and takes it away from the devouring mother to a place where it can grow. And then the dream ego says this is proof of the consciousness and the autonomous nature of the life force. And of course, the life force is the great mother. It is the unconscious, but it's the feminine. And another thing that we noticed here just recently, I mean, I did, is what von Franz says about the feminine. It's your relation to reality. Okay, the male is not related to reality. Hi, Tim. Hi, we're just discussing a Charles dream, and then we're going to do a quick Roy dream. I mean, a short Roy dream. It probably will last 2 days.
No, it'll be quick.
Okay, I'm just kidding you. But anyway, we were just going over his Okay, let's do the first dream, and you tell me if I'm the one that you just mentioned. On the June 14th, we had a cage with a hamster in it. Now, the hamster is the life force. It is the spirit animal. It's the master animal of the tribe of Charles Austin. Okay. It's his shamanic animal. It's his instinctive relation. Now, it also has a relationship very deeply because it is instinctive and with the feminine and the great mother, but it's an undifferentiated. So the fact that the thing is that the mother and the anima are not separated. The feminine is just this instinctive animal nature. Now, Roy sometimes has this too, that the feminine is has a theromorphic form, but this hamster that that Charles has in his dreams is nothing to be laughed at because of the fact that that it's a lowly animal. It has deep meaning, deep significance for the soul of Charles, and now it's a new hamster. Okay, the previous one died. Okay, and in fact, there's a whole bunch of dead hamsters in the cage. The cage was a mess. So the container for the this instinctive force is in great disarray. Okay, first of all the instinctive forces which we've known, ego consciousness has known up to now, are dead and lifeless. And that container, which is really a sacred container of that previous, the previous instinctive aspect of Charles is all lifeless and dead. Okay. And in fact, the new hamster is nibbling on all these dead ones. Now, in the corner is a great big mess of debris and junk. And there is a dead snake in that corner. Okay. So you know that in that a previous dream, the dream about the children on the plane of spiders and snakes, that was the devouring mother. You know, so this and here the one aspect of the spiders and snakes is dead. The previous iteration of the life force is dead. In fact, all its you know, it might be a big long line of them are dead, but there is a new one, and it is feeding on what went before. Very mysterious. This is mysterious. It really is. And then there is a dead snake. The snake is the most basic life force. That's dead. The only thing that is left in its spinning webs is the spider. And that's the absolute, the most clear image of the negative devouring mother there is. You know, I mean, it's so before the children were threatened by the spiders and snakes, the devouring mother, the plane, there's nowhere to go. They can't move. The great mother, they kind of fall into suspended animation. The great mother moves them to a safe place. And then the ego consciousness, and it really is an ego consciousness saying this. This is the unconscious speaking. This is a proof of my consciousness and my autonomy in you. I am alive in you. That's what it's saying. Okay, now this dream is showing that it is alive in us, but it is a rebirth, okay? The dead hamsters in the previous, they are representing, there's no such thing as death in the unconscious. Every death is followed by a rebirth. There's never annihilation. So the fact that these other hamsters are dead is not that, it implies a rebirth. In fact, there is a new one, and it is feeding off the psychic energy or the bodies of that which has went before, you know. Now the problem though is that the container of this new life force is not ordered, or okay. Now, what did Shu's dream tell us about order and chaos? You know, I mean, the what was in the first aspect of first dream where the anima was listening, or we were listening to a big long awards ceremony, and what we found out is through this long list of tasks, which is the ordering aspect of the masculine spirit, that is what made Lisa, the girl that came from the disadvantaged home, whole. Okay, the fact that she ordered her life. So in this dream, there is a rebirth, but there is still not enough masculine form to properly house the hamster. And it's still sort of haunted by the devouring mother a little bit, but it is, as the dream about the children that get moved by the great mother to the safe place was hopeful. There's a hopeful sign here too, although it's a little, you know, it seems a little dark, but I think there is a light in it too, you know, and there, one of the really neat things is some of the most dark psychological pictures you've ever seen often have a light aspect in them, and that is the new hamster. Well, anyway, I got to start on it, but how about you, Gary? What do you now? This is your dream, or Charles is your Analisan, what do you say to him or to yourself?
Well, I think, all the previous dead hamsters, I mean, we know that, we continually go through changes in the persona. And so those are sort of births and deaths. And so, this is, in a way, it's showing another beginning, but warning about, difficulties and getting things to go at the start. So it's like, I think it's very much like what you were saying, that the ordering principle, the logos, has to actually step in to define the framework within which to work, so that you can kind of clean some of the spider webs out.
Well, see, and that's not really the only thing you can say in the first dream that their ordering aspect was that I believe the place where this life force took the children was a square. Isn't that true, Charles? So it had a quaternity. It was definitely a sacred temple type of a thing.
Yeah,
because
I don't know if I
what
could
the shape was.
clearly say that it was a square. Everything was dark and kind of, it was hard to see where things started and ended.
Yeah, well, yeah. So we don't know. So in that case, there either was there was hardly any formation here. But what it's saying here is that there's been a rebirth of the life force, but what is lacking right now is an ordering mechanism that will, like Gary said, clear out the cobwebs and shore up the container of the new birth of the life force. That was very good, Gary. What do you think, Roy? You're kind of an expert on both Charles and what he's talking about too.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to have the ordering aspect like Gary's saying. You too, Craig. The ordering aspect hasn't appeared yet. But yet this miraculous thing is in the dream, which very few people have, including us. It's this autonomous spirit that appears like in the children and spider and snake dream, kind of lifts them out of that darkness. And the new hamster able to regenerate, this autonomous spirit. And I guess that's very predominant in Egyptian lore with the resurrection of Horus. And so Charles is real in touch with that. But the actual mechanics of the logos and the ordering aspect, which the rest of us seem to have, I might trade that for this autonomous spirit if I could. But that's very optimistic. I like that he has that. It seems to work for him. It's a great mystery to all of us. Will it continue to work? And of course, nobody understands it. But it seems to be in Charles' psyche and functioning, and that's something.
Yeah, it is there's been two dreams of children. Now let's just remember too, and is the Egyptian motif came up or of which I really think has something to do with a death and a rebirth in the dream about he did not want to go to the Egyptian exhibit anymore. This dream kind of explains why he didn't want to go to the Egyptian exhibit anymore, because he needed a new rebirth. He didn't, the past series of iterations of the hamsters are old and dead. He needs a new life force. And I think it really is, I think these dreams, that even all three of them, I sure would not have taken place unless he had went to Maine. What do you think, Tim? Or I suspect they wouldn't. I don't know. I'm sure. Go ahead.
So the snake is dead, right?
Yes, I don't know. That's so important, but what does it mean?
Well, it occurs to me that the snake is the predator of the hamster. And so I wonder what there's this inherent conflict between the two. And because only one hamster is alive, both the old ones and the snake are dead.
Yes.
I wonder if that indicates that there is some conflict that has been either passed over or resolved or something. So it's coming about in a new way with the hamster and the spider.
It's the biggest threat to the hamster. You're exactly right. To the life force.
Makes me wonder about Egyptian symbolism.
Yes.
All of a sudden, I'm thinking about this in terms of what would the Egyptians say about this kind of arrangement?
Yeah.
We don't have enough familiarity with the animal world to really, at least I feel like I don't understand sort of the deeper significance of the different animals. I sort of tend to look at each animal as being sort of one symbol. And it seems to me that a culture like the Egyptians would have a much more sophisticated understanding of the difference in animals.
Well, you remember Tutankhamun or a lot of would have a cobra coming out of their headdress, in the front of the dress, and I think that this does that's just wonderful that the snake is dead, which is the biggest threat to the growing thing. And I think the reason it's the biggest threat to the growing thing is that its prey is the hamster, and the spiders are still poisoners. They might not eat the hamster, but they're poisoners and they're weavers and they're just arch representatives of the wicked witch, the old witch. So the old witch is there. The Temenos is in bad shape, but the snake is dead. There is a new creation, a new hamster that has come into being, and it is not under the threat currently of the snake. What the biggest problem is that the clearing out the old witch aspects and getting the cage to be more orderly, and that needs to be done with a masculine attitude added to the feminine. This is one thing. I think Charles, didn't you? You've heard this story too, where Jung said that the societies he's met that were maternal type societies just had all kinds of problems. Like there was no morality or order in it. Everybody was sleeping with everybody else. Do you remember that, Charles? I think we were talking about that.
No, I remember hearing something from von Franz about that.
Yeah, it was von Franz maybe said it, that there was that a society which is totally feminine and run by the feminine tends to lack order, and the orderliness that it lacks is a some kind of a rational basis, that really provides meaning or something in the inner world, and in the outer world, it provides structure and form.
The other part of it is I believe it's also stagnant in the maternal.
Yes, that's what she said. Now this is a pretty radical statement by her. She said one time that without the inventiveness of the masculine psyche, she said that we wouldn't even have spoons. Now she said we'd be stirring everything with sticks. And now the idea of that is what is that now think of this symbolically, not literally, and in the critical way of current feminine attitudes, but what the masculine, the symbolically, what the masculine mind gives birth to is ideas, and what the feminine gives birth to is life itself. Okay, so then you combine the creator of life itself and the creator of form and structure, which is represented by the logos. Then you have you have this meaningful type of a structure. Anyway, what I'm saying, the only reason I bring it up is that the cage lacks structure, it lacks order, and it's dominated by the old witch, who's represented by the spiders. But Tim nailed the thing. I was trying to figure out, what does the dead snake mean? The dead snake is the predator of the hamsters. What do you think, Charles? Just based on what your thoughts are on that dream.
Well, I was thinking about it, and the cage seems to be a place that's sort of, well, the words that came to my mind was dominated by the past. A place where there's like old debris stacked up in the corners, and there's spiders weaving webs. This is a place, of the past. It's not kept up with.
Old attitudes, old.
Yeah. Right. My hamster is trying to live in a place of the past, and it's feeding off previous hamsters.
Mm-hmm.
And you'd think that with as many hamster dreams that I've had, I would, kind of get it by now on what really the hamster means. But it's like, its partner image is the cage too.
Mm-hmm.
It seems that it's something that
always appears,
needs a proper environment. Like the hamster, I would almost say just like, it's just my kind of just life and love for life, and just kind of general like arrows and like feeling, and just like, I don't know, like a life that isn't so cold, and something that like a life that I can engage with and actually love. And it needs a proper environment, but right now it's in a place so neglected and not kept up. And and it's almost like it means that I'm trying to still nourish myself with past ways of living,
without
And-
or an ordering principle too.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I don't know, to me, it points not so much towards logos and ordering, but just towards like care. And just like, you know, I don't know, all I really have to do is actually take care of the hamster, and I don't have to make, I mean, I don't have to
It's
make some type of
neglected.
intellectual thing.
It's being neglected.
Yeah.
That's exactly that's a very good point, Charles. It's
But, you know, I
being-
think another thing it could be too is like purposeful movement, you know, because that's like, that's not logos and it's not, you know, the intellect, but it's something which, you know, brings aliveness to things. So that would be another way to view it if you don't want to think, you know, of an ordering principle.
Yeah, and it reminds me, I didn't even think of it until this second, of my emaciated dogs. You know, I open up the basement door. Here comes a dog I haven't seen for 30 years, and it's just totally skinny. I mean, it's almost, I have been neglecting it, you know. So that rather than the ordering principle, Charles, that's very important, that it's just being neglected. It's being left to fend for itself. It can't fend for itself. You know, that's the one thing about that hamster, is that it, even though it is a sacred animal to you, it's totally dependent on your care. The sacred animal needs your care. And the one thing Charles said about the first dream about the children and the thing, he says what it really said to him, he thought at the end, was, do not be afraid of entering life. Okay. You know, so Gary, I think that's very good. Roy, do you have any thoughts after what Charles?
Yeah, I'm glad Charles said that. That is true. All the hamster really needs is somebody paying attention to it, making sure it's got water and food, cage is clean. Not something intellectual, not something that difficult. And I wonder if Charles even does that for himself. You know, that's something that, believe it or not, a lot of young people don't have, and a lot of old people don't have. I mean, that's a very sacred thing, to be able to nourish yourself. You're not going to be able to nourish anything else for very long or very well if you don't nourish yourself. This is not intellectual at all, or ordering at all. It's just something we seem to neglect in modern society. It's a very important point. Yeah, I'm glad the unconscious brought this, you know, to the surface.
A certain amount of reverence. What Jung said one time, he tells people that they should set aside an hour every day to tend their soul. And he says, they look at me like I'm crazy. You know?
Right.
What do you think, Tim? Tim, you are everybody. All you guys are just really helpful here. I mean, you know, really bringing up some really great points.
Well, looking at it kind of with fuzzy focus from a distance, it occurs to me that the cleaning out the cage is something that has to be done totally. You can't just kind of clean part of it, and move it over and clean the other part. It feels to me like this is a case where you have to look at all the parts of your life and re-examine everything. I had this personal catastrophe 12 years ago, and it felt to me like my whole house burned down. I had to build it back up from scratch. But what it did was it allowed me to look at every single little piece and say, yep, this is something I want to keep, and that crap I can get rid of. You know, this sort of total life reassessment. This might be a good time to do it when you're off in Maine and you know, away from sort of the normal rituals and patterns of life. And that's just something that I think might be explored.
It broadens your horizons, travel does. You know, the other thing is what you're saying, Tim, is so important. It reminds me of what Von Franz said about someone who is a winemaker. You know, they take the grape arbor and they cut off all the vines except one, so that all the sap flows only into one bunch of grapes. You know, all of their psychic energy flows into one, not in many, many, many ones, you know, but into one. And that shows a certain amount of reverence and respect for the process, you know, that we are going to devote all our attention to a center point. And I think to some extent, we all have this debris. I mean, it would be nicer to clean out. Yeah.
Yeah, the dream really seems to say the hamster needs a new home, that, you know, right now it is only feeding on the old. It needs to feed on the new. And, you know, the things that we give attention to is sort of our intention. And, you know, I think somehow you have to show the unconscious the intention by using your attention on things that demonstrate that. And to me, you know, because it's like, you know, this is an exercise, this is a movement, and you could do it with journaling, you could do it with active imagination, you could do it with meditation. If you do it with meditation and you're not real familiar with it, I'd recommend Meditation for the Love of It by Sally Kempton. I mean, it's just one of those books that you read and your jaw just drops, because, you know, you see, you know, you get a real feeling for where, you know, grace kind of comes in and helps you through this. And I think, you know, in a way, the dreams have shown you, you know, a lot of grace, but they need, but you know, that attention is still lacking. And here, you know, it's like the environment, you know, the care, you know, you nailed it when you talked about care. The care is just not in the environment of the hamster. And so it's kind of, you know, it's begging for it, it's calling out for it. And I think, you know, that it requires action in the outer world as, you know, a respect towards the inner world. So whether it's journaling, you know, writing poetry to the hamster, you know, or meditation, active imagination, you know, you've got to do the work. And it's even worse if you don't, because you're aware, you know, which makes it like, you know, then your dreams will really torture you.
You're adding guilt, of a sin of omission, you know, of really the neglect. You know, I mean, it's this most vital. We just heard in the last dream that the unconscious within us is saying, I am alive, I am conscious, and I am not you. You know, I'm autonomous. And so let's say that, and that was proof. It was absolutely proof. You know, what if we have that proof, how do we respond to it? You know, I mean, it is just a second. Indy, stop that. Okay. Well, anyway, just a second. Amy, could you tell Amy to, our 8-week-old puppy is causing a problem. I'm sorry. But anyway, I do want to say this is, where do we see cobwebs? Where there is no, you know, you go into a room that hasn't been in, no one's been in it for a year and a half. It's covered with cobwebs, because a room that's used regularly doesn't have cobwebs. We clear the cobwebs of the room that we use a lot. So this is not a room that's not being used a lot. And I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's just, let's say it's a plea from the depths, you know, to tend this flame within us, you know, and to be informed by it and to live according to its wisdom to some extent and not completely with the self-willed aspect of ourselves. You know, I mean, the idea of everyday meditating, as Gary says, what I've found from meditation that I get, or when I was just doing pure meditation, what I got was were first of all, after if I do it long enough and every day, and you know, an hour during the week, 2 hours on Saturday and Sunday, I just had this buzz all the time, you know. And I would also, you know, look out. This was what I would do to start it. I would, you know, I would always say to myself, I've only got, the gods have granted me 5 minutes to be alive. And, you know, this is just my only 5 minutes or only 30 minutes. Experience consciousness right now. And the gratitude that creates, you know, is unbelievable. We got the cutest little puppy, but he's just giving the other dogs a problem. But anyway, does anybody else, Charles, do you have a good enough connection that you can just kind of sum it up for us or not?
Yeah, my connection cleared up, at least for now.
Okay.
You know, I think,
can you get a little closer to the speaker?
can you hear me? Oh, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
You know, I think this dream, well, it's like, you know, showing me the image for a reason. Like the hamster in the disheveled cage with old dead hamsters and nibbling on them. And that, you know, disturbed me in the dream.
You're kind of fading in and out. I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Oh,
He said the dead hamsters kind of disturb him a little bit. Is that what you said, Charles?
yeah, the seeing my hamster nibble on the corpses, you know, was pretty disturbing and did make me feel good. And you know, I had a dream a while back where my hamster kept falling into like these cracks in like the floorboards, and he fell through all the way through the floor into the basement. But I ran down the stairs and he like fell on my shoulder and into my hands, and I started, you know, bawling, crying, and you know, I don't know. It's like the hamster is just, it's like about love and life, and like it's showing me these distraught images because of how much I love the hamster, and I don't know, it makes me think the hamster is like just me and my life, and that I need to transfer that, you know, I need to love my hamster too, but it's like the care and love that I always needed.
Yes. Oh my God.
Yeah. Because
Yeah.
I care about that hamster more than freaking anything. And I mean, I'm obsessively taking care of him from a distance right now, but yeah, I mean, he's like my child, kind of.
And this is why you are so interested in the child aspect of your own, that you want to be a parent, is because the way you heal the fact that you were neglected when you were a child is by taking care of another child, you know. So there's a great healing aspect, and I want to hear what Roy has to say about it, of nurturing something. Now, the one thing I'd say, there's an inner hamster and there's an outer hamster, you know. And the inner let's say you had some dogs and you didn't feed them for months. And then you go in and you see that a couple dogs died of starvation, and the other dogs are feeding on their carcasses. And it's not because that's their natural way of feeding. It's because they just haven't been nurtured by us, and it was our responsibility to do it. And so the fact that we didn't do it sort of made them feral or wild, and now had to do something to maintain themselves. But this is the inner hamster, the inner child, you know. So the inner child in us is so starving that it is eating on the carcasses of dead children that are within us, you know. Now, what do you think, Roy, as far as Donald Kalsched and the fact that there seems to be a very important thing that which I always forget anyway, is there seems to be, we have to add that emotive quality within Charles' dreams of the nurturing child. The fact that there is an aspect of him that, what do you think?
Yeah, the Charles is Charles is manipulated by the hamster. The daemon can use the hamster to manipulate Charles. He gets his feelings. So that's the thing that you want to examine. You want to examine, oh, how does these things that happen to my hamster affect my feelings? You know, how does it make me feel? Like you're being manipulated through these images. It's like the daemon can manipulate you through the feelings that are evoked from what happens to the hamster. I mean, how are you going to get a handle on that? I mean, what can you do in the physical world, in your real world with yourself? What can you do? How do you get the mindset and a plan to counteract what the daemon's doing to the hamster? I mean, you have to like initiate something, activate something in yourself, you know, to turn that around, to show the daemon that you're responsible. You can take care of the hamster. You know, you got this. I mean, what would that be? What would that consist of?
It's also sort of a clue to the wolf that eats the fox in Tim's dream, just a little bit. You know, there's an aspect of the instinctive world within us is feeding on itself because we're not feeding it. You know, I mean, it's eating itself. You know, the devouring mother eats the child, but the instinctive world is feeding on itself because we're not feeding it or something, you know. But in Tim, you had somewhat of a difficult childhood too, didn't you, or not? Maybe not. I don't know.
No, I had a pretty idyllic
Pretty
childhood.
good idyllic
Yeah.
childhood. So you have no complaints. Yeah. Well, the only thing I think missing in Charles' life was that he was probably. I think Charles, don't you think to some extent that that's what my dad's brother said about him, my dad and his sister, that they pretty much raised themselves because their mother stopped raising kids after the first two, you know. So yeah, but anyway, the idea here, I think the importance of the hamster, and Charles says, how many dreams do I have to have a hamster before I figure it out? I think Charles just nailed it. It has to do with there's one aspect of it that has to do with entering life and not being afraid of it. And there's another aspect of that, the healing aspect of our early years is taking care of this life force again. And this is, I think, why it is not such a robust animal. Our shaman animal is a hamster. What the idea of it being a hamster is we need to tend it and take care of it. And so that unless we tend it and take care of it, there is no possibility of wholeness or healing, you know. But anyway, does anybody else have any other comments on it?
Just wanted to say, I really liked what Roy said about the daemon and having to demonstrate to the daemon that, you know, you're willing to respond, you know, and that it's teaching us through the feelings that it's generating in us. And here, you know, the hamster is there, and yet there's this incredible sense of loss and lack. So, you know, it does need our attention.
Yeah, and that disturbing quality of it feeding on the other hamsters,
Right.
is the ego telling us how neglected it is, and the fact that it's a new hamster, a new one has come into existence. Where did it come from? How did it get there? I mean, and it's feeding on the old carcasses. It's just showing us that you don't get, that's not what hamsters eat. They don't eat dead carcasses. But they can't get the lettuce and carrots and things that they do eat by themselves, you know. So anyway, Charles, we'll consider this again too later. I'll type it up and then we'll kind of review it next time. Roy, did you want to give your dream? And Tim, if you have another one too, I think we got plenty of time.
Okay, let's see. I had this dream on the 19th. I'm fixing a flat tire. Actually, I actually did that. I had a golf cart at the Fruit and Space Park where I volunteer, and I fixed this tire over there. I had this dream a couple days later. I have this golf cart at my dad's old truck terminal. I'm using his compressor to fix this truck tire, and I looked around, and my cousin Bobby was standing by me, and his dad, my Uncle Paul. They're telling me some kind of story or something. I can't recall what it was, and I turned, and I think Bobby's still alive. He's my age, but I know my Uncle Paul's been dead a long time, and then it really surprised me. Oh, he's dead. You know, there's a dead man talking to me, woke me up. You know, that was the dream. But I have these dreams with dead people in them a lot, but that's the dream.
Okay, all right. Well, okay, we're fixing a flat tire. So the way of moving forward the vehicle of ego has an aspect of it that's wounded or can't move. Now, sometimes this dreams about lameness too. Do you think that's related at all? The
Well,
fact
and
that
portus wound, I mean, I'm always
Yes.
trying to heal something.
Yeah, well, there's
Wound.
been a lot of aspects of that. You need to fly because
Yeah.
it's too hard to walk, you know. So there's an aspect here too of that our way of growing across the earth is injured and needs us to fix it. So we are through the father world, we are trying to and your father wasn't he one of the most successful people in your family? Or
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
he was it.
very competent, very anyway, through using the competence of the father world, we are trying to cure our lameness. Now, cousin Bobby, is he your mother's
No, father's brother.
Okay, so it's Uncle Paul is your father's brother. Yeah, okay. and cousin Bobby and Uncle Paul are there talking, not about the tire, but what are they talking about?
Some story they're telling me, I can't recall. what
Okay,
it was.
while you're fixing the tire.
Yeah.
And so you're fixing the tire using your dad's old compressor, trying to cure your lameness. And suddenly another aspect of the father world is present only by the old compressor to begin with, but then it becomes more manifest because your father's nephew and your father's brother appear and they start to talk. But then we are startled because there is an element of the father world that we think is dead, and the fact that it still is here is startling to us. So there's an aspect of that the father world is dead to some extent in us, and the fact that it comes back. Did you feel what did you feel? You know, they often say that until both your parents are gone, that you really aren't completely independent. What did you think when your father passed away?
Oh yeah, that was really tough. I cried a lot. It really hit me hard.
How old were you?
I was 43.
43. Okay. Now, when maybe everybody could say this, but when I dream of a dead relative, you know, I often am just very glad to see them, you know, and always sort of think that it's subjective, you know, that there's an aspect that they're really here, you know, to a little bit extent, or is it symbolic? I don't know, you know. But what do you think, Gary? Do you now you have dreamt about your wife that has passed away a couple times, but do you ever
Yeah.
dream about dead relatives? What do you think?
I think I've had my father in some of my dreams, but you know, I guess, yeah, I just don't quite know what to say. You know, to me, there's always like, there's an emotional aspect there. And maybe it's the affect, which is the important part of it, you know, because they represent something in your life, some part of your life, some part of what you now are.
And one of the unusual things about Roy's dreams, and Roy, correct me if I'm wrong, but you often don't you feel that you're really there during the dream?
Yeah.
And
Oh,
there's
yeah.
and so it's really happening, you know. And so in your dream, when someone is dead suddenly is alive again, it isn't so dreamy. There's an aspect of it that is very similar to outer life, you know, and that's, I think, why it's so startling to you, you know. And so let me just, I'm just going to do one more iteration. You know, there's an aspect of us that is lamed and in need of repair. We go to the father's old compressor, and it seems to summon the father relatives a little bit. Yeah, you know, and so the cousin Bobby, who may be still alive, is there. We haven't seen him for a long time. We don't know whether he's dead or alive, but we do know his father is definitely dead. And yet the ego is so aware of its reality in the dream that it is so startling it shocks us and wakes us up. But what seemed to summon them was the using the old fathers. Now, the compressor, the thing that blows up the tires, the spiritual aspect of the Father. Now, this would definitely not just be the human Father, but it would be the Father archetype, you know, in us. I mean, part of it's the real Father, but part of it, the fact that he's related to something that blows tires up, you know, says he's related to spirit and to pneuma. And the fact that we start using that Father pneuma to cure our lameness seems to summon, either really summon the ghosts of our Uncle Paul, or I mean, to me, it would be Uncle Paul. And if it was in my dream, I don't know. I mean, I would say that is Uncle Paul. And he came into our dream because we started to use Father magic to cure our own lameness. And what do you think, Tim?
I'm having a strange kind of imaginational journey with this, partly because of a sculpture I did 25 years ago or so, called the model of the unconscious. And it's just this bizarre, rusty old machine with all these parts in it, and each of the parts has a significance. And there's a thing that I think of when I hear the word compressor, this old rusty tube with a handle on it that's used to compress. And the reason I put it in there is because this is the thing that it's actually the repressor in the psyche. And as you talk about the dream, I'm thinking about my own family and this weird kind of family complex that we all have to battle with, which is rescuing desperate people, especially young women. And it's something every one of us has to figure out how to deal with that. And as your family constellates, and I'm thinking about this, okay, maybe what this is referring to is some kind of a family repression in the men in your family that that you have to deal with just like everybody else, you know, and because you're more conscious probably than everybody else in your family, it'll be easier to figure out what to do about it. But that's what comes across. And the other thing that I thought of, just another bizarre association, is the shape of the flat tire, which is like the Greek letter omega.
And ending.
The ending, yeah, right.
The circularity. What? Yes, that's very good, Tim. I like that. Now, Tim, do you ever dream about dead relatives at all?
Well, my parents died 15 years ago, and I dream about them pretty often, particularly my father. I can't think of any other relatives or people that usually or that appear with any regularity.
Yeah. Let me ask you this, Roy. What do you think you lost when your father left your life? I mean, what did you feel that you had lost something, or that it was a natural process, or was it traumatic at all? You think?
Well, yeah, since he was the person in the family that, you know, made a spot on the map, I sort of lived in his shadow, and everybody else did too. And that was such a dynamic thing. I mean, when I went to his funeral, it was just, you know, like dozens and dozens of people that I met, you know, truck drivers and stuff, that told me stories about my father and all these lives that he influenced. I mean, he probably hired 400 people, you know, daily to run all the operation. That's a lot of jobs in a small town, and so he provided a lot for the community, and people would come and tell me stories, and all the people that that came to the funeral and felt that loss and wanted to share how this man was part of their lives and they could interact. And it just really stunned me. I mean, the impact was big enough as it was, and then all of that was just sort of overwhelming. It took me a long time to digest.
Well, yeah, that's the thing I was going to say, ask too. When my mother passed away, it took me a very, very long time to digest that. I mean, I still haven't really got over it completely, but there is, there's an aspect of how you wake up the next day, and it's just impossible to believe. While my mother was dying, it was really near Christmas, and I'm at Christmas Eve and watching all these happy people running around. I said, "Oh, look, everybody's so happy," and I'm so sad, And I mean, they don't have this heaviness that's just pressing me down, So I mean, yeah, and now the only thing is that there is an aspect in us that is healed by the some spiritual aspect of the father archetype. It can heal our lameness, and at that point, I think that's the main part of the dream. Okay, that's the main part of the dream. But from that suddenly, I think Uncle Paul is when the father archetype awoke in you, or I don't know, maybe you can describe it. Where did you get the father's compressor? Where was it? Did you inherit it, or?
No, it was over at the truck terminal where they service the trucks.
So it acted.
Several compressors.
Who owns the truck terminal now?
My father owns a truck terminal.
Yeah, but he's gone.
Well, it's a dream, Craig. I
Yeah,
can go
but
to
I
the
mean,
truck terminal anytime I want to.
Okay, yeah, but I'm just saying that Uncle Paul, did he die before or after your father?
He died before my father. He had a truck terminal too, R.P. Thomas. He was when their mother died, she lived with us part of the time and Uncle Paul part of the time. Uncle Paul my father had like 10 brothers, and Uncle Paul and my father were probably the most charismatic and powerful. And they were just incredibly colorful characters, just blow you away, And so I was very good friends with Bobby, and I used to go over his house a lot, Uncle Paul's, and he liked me a lot, and he just has a huge impact on people that meet him. He has a huge impact on them. So he was the other brother that was the most colorful.
Okay, well, I mean, the let's just go through it one more time. We have there is an we cannot move right now because there's an aspect of us that is lame. So we're sitting there considering the problem of what to do, and we know that we can fix this at our father's truck terminal, because that can fix the lameness that we are experiencing right now.
He's got the compressor. I need a compressor.
Yeah. So we go to that place that can fix our lameness, and it fixes it with air, and we go there. And so we sort of are now trying to access the father realm to cure a lameness that we had. And when we go there, that's the main thing. That's the first part. That's scene 1 of the dream. Scene 2 in the dream is suddenly other father aspects start to constellate. And one is Cousin Bobby and the other is Uncle Paul. But the the dream, but our dream ego is so alert or so awake in those dreams. That's really Uncle Paul. So I think I mean, that's the way I would read it. It's really Uncle Paul. What do you think of it, Roy? What do you?
Well, there's tremendous spirit in this dream.
Yeah.
To have those two brothers, my father and Paul, they were two brothers. To have them in my dream, all that masculine spirit, and the compressor. I think there was just a real shot of spirit.
And that charisma was came close. So we entered this very vital realm of our ancestral past, one that was charged. See, the two people in my life were my Norwegian grandfather and then my Ojibwe grandmother, who was my mother's mother. And then I had a Norwegian grandfather. I mean, those were the two charismatic people in my life.
That would be very special to have them in a dream.
Yes, and when my grandmother appears or my grandfather appears in my dreams, it's no joke.
Mm-hmm.
When they're there,
you're awake.
Yes, I mean, everything awakes in me. I'm searching to I want to relate to them because I miss them so much, and I know that their vitality so exceeds my own. And it's a rich vein of my past that is gone, and now suddenly it's here again. And so there is a sense that I've regained something that has been lost to me forever, and it's like something we've lost forever suddenly reappears, So this dream, did you have any of that emotion in it? That
I
what
did.
would you say your mood was?
My mood was I was just so elated to see Uncle Paul because I haven't had him in a dream before.
Elated, yes, but startled.
Was startled when I realized that, oh, that's Uncle Paul. He died. Somehow my ego leaked into the dream at that point.
Yeah.
Because I was
at that point.
At that point, it woke me up. But just before that point, it was just like your Norwegian grandfather. I had incredible clarity and I was really paying attention. I mean, this was really special. This was really, a big thing.
That happens to me too. The ego leaks into my dream, and I say, "Wait a second, this can't be real.
Out,
He's not here."
Right.
And then you do wake up because you've broken the spell.
Right.
So that's kind of what happens to it. But I would say that you just went back and touched a magical aspect in your life history.
It's like the autonomous spirit, it's like the autonomous spirit, this thing, you don't know when it's going to appear, just pow, there it is. And you're just amazed. You're always surprised. That's what it felt like.
Well, I know. And they're delicious too. I mean, I can taste them for years afterwards. I can just remember it, what they were doing, and usually they aren't paying very much attention to me, Well, anyway, Charles, did you have any comment on it, or are you still available?
I don't know.
Yeah, stay close to your phone, your speaker, or whatever.
Well, I was just going to ask Roy what you asked him, but yeah, no, I don't have anything to add, but it's very interesting. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I did too, because this is I mean, it's one of the most real dreams you can really have, and I think that the meaning of it is we're just awakening a very vital energy within us that is not unimportant. It's still there. It's still alive. and it evokes energy that we suddenly experience again. It's like you know, an old you have all those old generators, and suddenly electricity went through it. You know, or an old you know, something just awoken that. Well, Gary or Tim, did you have any more comments or?
Yeah, maybe I'll throw out one, and that is that, you know, it's almost like a comment, because on the road of life, you know, as our ego is traveling along, you do get flat tires, you know. And this is almost a comment of like, you know, you have the ancestral gifts to call on. You have that affect, that attitude, and it's you know, it's available when you want it. So I guess that would be the only other thing maybe that I would take out of it.
These dreams are often are gifts, though. I mean, they don't come that often. When they do, that's why they're so special. I mean, they just bring it back. It's like you were able to travel back into time. You know, I mean, seriously. I mean, that's what I mean, I'll tell you, that's that. You know, as far as unreality, that is something I long to do. Is to travel back in the time. I don't know. I mean, that's so unrealistic, but I think about it a lot.
Well, you do in your dream. You'll
Yes.
go back to something in the past in a dream. It's quite wonderful usually.
I think a lot of the things I've learned now, if I could bring them, if I could go back and you know, things would be different. I mean, I could. There's great pain that I could heal now. I could go back and heal myself when I was a child. You know,
Yeah, you
with
can do that in your
great,
imagination. You know,
yes,
pretty good. That's a very good meditation to do.
could really. I mean, there was I had a pretty painful childhood, and it was of my own making. It's not due to anything other than I think just my great awkwardness, my great shyness, and I think it was because I was so introverted, you know, and I didn't know I was introverted, and I didn't know I was an intuitive, you know, that I didn't have a very good reality function, you know. So anyway, Tim, did you have any final comments? If not, why don't did you have a dream you want to introduce?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. Great.
Chat here.
Yeah. Okay. If you
Pretty
can't
short.
put it in the chat, you can email it to me too. Let's see, I'll get my email up here.
This time it worked for the chat.
Okay, great. Okay, well, go. Let's read it.
It's called Black Band. A band has come to the studio from the city, maybe 8 or 10 black guys. They're individually getting photo portraits taken, posed in front of a black background. They come and go individually, and I'm disappointed I don't get to see them all as a group. I become familiar enough with them that I start teasing them about confusing them with each other or something. And I'm wondering all the time, what would it sound like to see all these guys working together? What kind of music would they create?
Well, I really like to have a dream about the band because of that last part of the precision airwork dream, you know, where we go back. You know what I've been thinking about that, and what I think about that is that we're going back. We come back from this really magical thing, and then we go back into the valley and into our life and we unplug some things, you know. And so let's just talk about. We're going to learn a little bit about what Tim thinks about the band in this dream. So let's start that out, and let me see. Okay, a band has come to the studio. To your studio from the city. So what city would that be? Like from Seattle or Portland or?
It's got to be a big city with a lot of black people, which we don't have very many up here.
Yes, not in Montana. No, it's not. Okay. And so say they came from Chicago or Los Angeles or you know, someplace like that. And so they're pretty hip. They come from the big city, and there's 8 to 10 people. So they're, you know, it's sort of a very special time because, you know, to me, it's like, say, Duke Ellington or Count Basie's group came. You know, this is quite a pleasure to me to have those guys show up. Okay. And now they are individually getting photo portraits posed in front of a black background. Who's taking the portraits? Or
I don't think
it's not your studio.
I think it's my studio, although I don't recognize it. It feels like my place.
Okay. So anyway,
And there seems to be somebody else like sitting next to him in the portrait, but I just don't have a concept of that. So each one there's like an assistant sitting there, or maybe the photographer is setting up stuff, but it's not me taking the photo. I'm just kind of wandering around.
I always think I used to dream a lot about photographs, and you know, like the photographs that I would dream about is I'd see a photograph, and then there'd be a window, and I could go into the photograph and look to the left or the right and see what's in it. But I think it has to do with the image realm, you know. Now here, the image realm is represented by a very dynamic. Do you know what kind of music they played or not?
I have no
Or do you
idea.
have any idea? Okay, so I would say 8 to 10. This would be, I would guess, it's a jazz combo.
Fusion jazz or something like
Yeah, or
that.
something like that, because you
Wind
don't
and
need,
Fire.
yeah, you don't need that many people for a rap group or something, you know. Yeah, so I think it is a very artistic form of improvisation, improvisational music, and they are going to be united with the image realm, and they come and go individually, and the dream ego is disappointed you don't get to see them as a group. So there you go. You're not able to see the gestalt, you know, the sum of the parts. What is the sum of the parts? We don't get to see it. We just look at the individuals. So we're disappointed that we don't get to see what energy occurs when they're all together. We're just seeing them one at a time. So the fact that they are a group, they're a musical combo, and that musical combo has some energy to it. We don't experience it because we're just experiencing it partially, one at a time. Okay. And then we become familiar enough with them, and then I start teasing them about confusing them with each other. And I wonder what it would sound like what amazing music. Oh, that's so beautiful. Okay. The idea there is these entities within us, which come from a very creative world of improvisational music, have not been crystallized in the pattern where we can experience its beauty. You know, we're just seeing it partially, this one and that one, and you know, and we're saying that the parts look a little bit. We don't really we are not able to distinguish one part from another. But I think that the most beautiful. Now, I love what Roy. I've been trying to practice what Roy says. What is the most magical aspect of it? And it is that last sentence. I wonder what it would sound like, what kind of amazing music they'd create. Okay, so now what is music in this? It's so mysterious, especially instrumental music. What is instrumental music? Why does it move us so much? Uh, it's this, you know what it really, Von Franz said that what creates a totality is emotion. That when we experience something deeply emotionally, we feel whole. So we know that if they would create, if see, we're only seeing it again in sort of its differentiated aspect of the male uh, logos archetype, which doesn't, and what's missing here is eros. You know, eros means to bring together, and logos means to differentiate into parts. This dream, I think, is saying that can you imagine how beautiful our lives were if our our high tower could descend into the depths and we hear the music of it at that point. See, the eros aspect is that which brings things together in sort of a very diffuse light of the moon. So there's no sun there making things clearly black and white or anything. We've erased yes and no. We've erased rationality. We've erased all of that. All we have now is the lyrical beauty of totality, that we can experience it. But we can only experience totality through eros. We can't experience it. Let's just say, like you hear the Magic Flute by Mozart, and all you're going to hear is one uh, violin player, and he's going to play his part, which probably is, not even the melody. It's more of a rhythm violin or something. But what do you think, Gary? I mean, I think at the end of it is I think it's the eros versus logos, and the beauty of eros means that the disparate elements come together and we hear their music.
Well, and I think what's interesting too is that, again, some things feel like maybe they're about the future. And so this feels like he's bringing parts of himself together that haven't really been collected together before. And when they are all brought together, after they have been recognized and attention paid to them, then there will be, a new amazing creative form.
Mm-hmm. It might be why we couldn't follow or go into the House of Four Women or to see the play. Or the other thing is that the fact that we lack totality, we are um, too much in the rational realm, and we need to become more lunar. You can't go into the House of Four Women if you're a solar being. You need to go in there as a lunar being. So you need to go in there as the son of the mother, not the son of the father. What do you think, Roy?
Yeah, I got a little bit different take.
Yeah, good.
Uh, okay, well, there's what Tim wants, and then there's what the black band, the individuals, the black band wants. And so here's the studio, which Tim has a studio, and and Tim has models or whatever, which is sort of an individual. And these 8 to 10 black guys, they appear to want to get individual photo portraits. So they're individuals. But Tim's coming from a different place. He's disappointed. He wants to see them as a group. he has trouble telling them apart. He starts teasing them about confusing them with each other. So he's not into the individual thing, but apparently they are. And so what I'm getting from this is Tim in his work, in his studio as an artist, a lot of times deals with an individual, but he doesn't know the individual. But the individual wants to be known. They come to the studio to get a portrait of themselves individually to be known. But Tim's not doing that. But he's doing a portrait of him as an individual, but he's not getting to know him as an individual. You see where I'm going with this? Okay.
Yeah, yes, I do see where they first of all, they're getting individual portraits, not a group portrait. It's individual portraits. So it's this differentiated aspect. But even though it is differentiated, we seem to be still looking at them collectively. You know, there's an aspect of, is that what you're saying?
Yes. More of like, they want to be individuals. They're going to get individual portraits to flesh out their characteristics as an individual, not as a group.
Beautiful.
But that's not what Tim does. He does portraits of an individual, not to get to know them as an individual. But these Black people want to bring the individual aspect out of themselves. But the artist isn't interested in that. He's just doing an individual portrait. You see the juxtaposition between the object and the subject, between the artist and the subject in the portrait.
Yeah, I really, it's awakening a lot of stuff. You got the eros aspect. You've got the maybe treating something too collectively and not with I thou, one on one.
Yeah, that.
You know, yeah. The idea
Another-
is that. Go ahead.
Another way of saying that is, if I get you right, Roy, that each of these people don't want me to look at them, they want to be seen.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. You nailed it in one
Ah,
sentence.
Yeah.
They want to be
Yeah.
seen.
Yeah, I mean, what is it that the man wants to be wants to understand, and the woman wants to be understood? You know, the woman doesn't want to understand; she wants to be understood, and the man just wants to understand, which is a more abstract way of being. To be understood means that you are saying, I want my immanence, my presence here to be understood. Where the man is saying, no, I just want to understand how these things work together, you know. And also, what he's saying is we're not really interested in the individual I thou-ness of each member of this this collective. We're just interested in the collective aspect, you know. And then, but at the end, it says, wouldn't it be beautiful to, but as Roy says, that's not what these disparate elements want. They want to be experienced as living beings. They're saying, yes, I'm a member of the group, but I belong, I play in this group, but I don't identify myself with that group. If you want to relate to me, you need to do it one-on-one, you know, but yeah, but let's keep going. Charles, what do you have to add here, if you can? Oh, we don't have much time, but are you there, Charles?
Yeah, I don't know. I just think what Roy said was really spot on. And yeah, I mean, I don't know. I agree with him quite a bit.
Yeah. Tim, do you have a final sort of a summation that we can take over to the next time, just to help us?
One thing that strikes me is the image of the black man, which I would immediately think of as my shadow image. But the fact is, it's more like an erotic shadow because, you know, I think of black guys as being really expressive, really emotional, really, you know, in that sense, really having a live feminine aspect.
They're the son of the mother. They really are. So you're representing a bunch of male aspects of the feminine world.
I was just thinking, you know, I don't think I've ever heard a bad black musician in my life, just because there aren't many black people around here. And, you know, all the people I've played with, there's a whole bunch of bad musicians, but they're all white guys.
Well, particularly if they're from the big city and they're coming all the way out to the sticks, they must be pretty good.
Yeah. Right.
Well, anyway, let's reconsider this. I'd like to reconsider all 3 dreams next time. And Gary, I want you to be taking melatonin and B6. Okay. And by the way, I'm going to get some ideas to what book to read next. And I thought maybe you and Gary, Tim, and Jan or somebody can help determine what our next book will be. But anyway,
Okay.
Thanks, guys. We'll talk to you next time.
All right. Thanks.
Bye-bye. We'll see you later.